Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Knee-high by the 4th of July is old news. But there's still a mid-season crop check, right, that we have to do? Well, that's kind of part of the market-to-market theme. This is the M2M podcast, so we're going to talk about the crops in long form with two of our farmers that we've already discussed and met this year. Jamie Kress is from Idaho. We're going to hear what's happening there. And we're going to start, though, in Ohio with Ben Klick. And I got to tell you, their stories can't be too much different than what you're about to hear. These are extremes of what's been happening when it comes to weather and agriculture and the crops that are for their region. We're going to hear firsthand. Ben's going to join us from the field where he's trying to spray. And Jamie is joining us where they're getting ready for harvest. We'll find out what crop, what's going on with there, and how maybe we could figure out some type of pipeline to ship water from one to the other. That would be ideal. But this is the full discussion. We did a cut-down version of this on the TV show last week, but this is the extended version. We're going to hear a little bit about mountain biking from Jamie. It's a fun little story. And I've got video to prove just how extreme they are. New episodes of this podcast come out each and every Tuesday. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube in video form or our website of markettomarket.org. Let's go to the field and find out what's happening with Ben and Jamie. All right, Ben, it's green grass behind you. I'm guessing green grass is kind of easy to find in your area?
Yeah. Actually, if the camera wasn't so fuzzy, it's actually green soybeans with grass in it that is hopefully starting to die as I just finished spraying this farm with my first post pass on this soybean farm. Man, what a year. I don't even know how to describe it other than you just kind of scratch your head and, you drive around, you talk to your neighbors, and you're all in the same boat, so it makes you feel a little bit better after you drive around and look at what you got out your back door on your own personal acres. But the way I described it to my wife over the weekend as we were cutting wheat there over 4th of July during the nice stretch of weather we had was, I just feel like it's just this year that you're just never going to get ahead. We're just going to continue to be behind. And then before we know it, it'll be harvest. And before we know it, it'll be Christmas. So, yeah.
Well, when we last talked in the spring, you were feeling behind already then because rain had hit. And rain, it wasn't so much that it was so heavy, but it was ill-timed. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes. And at that current time, the weather was just unseasonably cold. We always get some cold stretches through April and May, but May was one of the coolest on records. It wasn't necessarily overly wet. Like, it was plenty wet, but it was just cool. We had some later frost that actually affected our wheat a little bit as we got into harvest here, like I said, over the weekend. But my grandpa and great-grandpa used to joke about, you have thunder in February, you'll have frost in May. So, and we had some thunderstorms here in the winter months. So apparently that still holds true to some later frost days. So
that's a new one. That's a good wise one.
Yeah.
What is an average planting completion date for you?
So if you would have asked me when I was in high school 15 years ago, we were always done by the first half of May. And then it just seems like our seasonal patterns have shifted, at least here in our part of the Eastern Corn Belt. And if we can shoot to be done by Memorial Day anymore, we usually feel pretty good. We always get a decent early stretch, and then it gets wet for a few weeks, and then usually the third week of May is like go time, and you bust everything in a 7 to 10 day window, and then you finish up some double crop beans after hay or something like that there the 1st of June, and away you go. But kind of the similar pattern this year. Got started in April there, the last week of April with burn down, and we haul manure and all those sorts of things, and got some nice warm weather and got some corn and beans planted, and then it went wet for 2.5 weeks, which again, we're kind of used to that, right? So not too worrisome, but it was just unreasonably cold, just really cool temperatures in the 40s and 30s. We actually planted some corn there, which we still joke about that it was snow, but it wasn't snow. But it was cold enough to where it should have been snowing. And then we got, like I said, rained out there quite a bit through the month. But then we got a very fortunate good stretch of weather at the end of May and into the first part of June, and got done there. By June 4th, we finished corn and soybeans, including our custom stuff. And actually, the one wetter farm is typical at the end that we planted there. The 1st of June was the driest that farm's been in a long time, which was a nice surprise. But that corn in particular, right after it got planted there, 2 nights later, had 3.5 inches of rain on it. And it's anticipated on trying to maybe go replant some, but I wasn't able to get back in that field till the 21st of June to even post the corn. And even at that point, there were spots I had to go around and do my best with the sprayer. It's just been a whirlwind. Like last year, we kind of joked of, oh man, things were going too good for the year. It was a nice, spring went good, summer was nice. Man, these are nice. And then Mother Nature says, well, just hold my beer and wait till next year. We'll show you what fun's like, right? So, but just one of those years where I don't know how to describe it, but it's very, very much so that way across a lot of this eastern part of Ohio. I actually knew guys that were still planting corn a week ago. Dairy guys north of me, not too far, trying to get corn finished up. They need obviously for silage. And I drove by 2 farms this morning that were planted that didn't get planted. So there's a decent bit of that in spots. So it's I don't know how else to describe it other than just keep your head up.
Your corn then is anywhere from around you, not necessarily yours, shin high to, is there anything that's tasseling?
Yeah, so the very first corn we planted there, the 24th of April, is right at about VT stage. We will fungicide it next week. And actually, as we speak, my father is side dressing some V7 corn that was the last we planted. And then there's also corn that you could still, see the ground that was, planted here 2 weeks ago, right? So all over the place. That's what we kind of talked about harvest this morning as basis levels here locally have continued to creep up, kind of as prices dropped in corn. The corn demand has still been fairly decent here for the local feed mills and ethanol plants and such. But I feel like harvest is going to be very drawn out. My sister that works in the grain elevator space, we talked over the 4th of July weekend. It was her birthday's the 4th, so her and her daughter come up. And, we had a little family time there the weekend there between week cut and stuff. And she asked me what I thought, wheat harvest was going to be like. I said, Cammie, I feel like wheat harvest is going to be just like all of harvest. I feel like there's going to be a good start for some early guys, and they're just going to drag on for a decent bit, at least in this neck of the woods. So,
well, let's expand on your wheat. I think you said 160 acres of wheat. What did you think of how it came out?
I tell you what, very, very pleasantly surprised for the amount of rain it had, and obviously any disease pressure we could have expected. This was a year for it with the cold and wet, and then warm and wet and humid, right? So fungicide applications definitely more than pay for themselves in wheat. From the wheat we've hauled in and been tested, VOM levels are well below worrisome levels. Test weights are down a little bit. Test weights are probably off 4 or 5 pounds. A lot of 54 to 57 pound wheat when you're used to 59 to 62 pound wheat. But yield was surprisingly well. I know from guys I've talked to, a lot of 80 to 100 bushel wheat, which is for this year, guys are very, very tickled with. So quality was obviously going to be a concern, but I think this was a year that guys definitely that maybe were on the fence about spending the money and the timely factor. If you want to put the fungicide on wheat, maybe some smaller operators. I think this definitely was a year it showed them like, hey, I think I need to do this from now on. So
we opened discussing that that's not necessarily grass that you want behind you. It's supposed to be beans. But let's update what the bean crop then looks like.
Yeah, I tell you what, Paul, I am pleasantly surprised how good the beans look and disappointed how poor the corn looks for how it's handled all the moisture it's had. And similar farms, drains, similar stool types, plant dates were about the same, but the beans have managed a lot better through the warm, wet temperatures than the corn has. Corn is just very uneven. The stand is there and all that's fine, but just a lot of wavy up and down, several different growth stages, ponded areas that have drowned out or, got water away and just corn's behind. So, but beans look very good overall. It's just haven't been able to get in here. We're 2 weeks behind on spraying these. They should have been sprayed 2 weeks ago. But even as today, I got an inch of rain 2 nights ago, and I got some mud on my tires as I'm sitting here talking to you that I normally would not have, this into the second week of July here.
So what would be an ideal finish for you here? What would the rest of July and August need to be to get you where you would be able to sleep a little better this winter?
Yeah. Well, this year's going to be interesting because I've probably told you, my wife is due with our second daughter here in about 3 weeks. So we got a lot to get done. So hopefully Mother Nature is listening to me when I ask her to cooperate here going forward. But, if I get a good day today spraying, need another 2 days to finish post-spraying beans. And then we didn't get all of our corn top dressed with the ground bar before it got too big. So I actually have some parts and pieces in the shop. We're going to switch the sprayer over and try drop tubing 28 nitrogen with the sprayer on a couple hundred acres of corn that we didn't get done. So that'll be a new experience. So probably got 3 or 4 days of that to do with this thing if the weather cooperates. Then obviously get back into start fungicide on soybeans here as soon as that. So I got a couple weeks in the sprayer. So that'll take me right up to the birth of a little girl here. So then hopefully I can breathe a little bit as that goes good. So
what happens if it all of a sudden becomes 98 degrees every day?
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one, especially as I'm spraying Liberty. And obviously, I don't know if you can see well behind me, but it's not an overly great Liberty spraying day here. A little cloudy. It's warm but cloudy. So there's a lot of that. Well, it should be okay. So we can't, we're going to go out and do our best at it today. So I only have a couple of farms of Liberty to spray yet. Then we'll switch back to spraying some Enlist and we'll be fine. But just, yeah, it's I've never seen an attitude across the area of farmers of just like, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. We got to get done what we can and just hopefully laugh about it in the fall. Hopefully everything turns out okay. But just, it's just been a continuation of, hold my beer and watch what happens next with the weather pattern. So, yeah.
You mentioned the basis is improving. I wish I could say you have good prices to fall back on.
Yeah, that's definitely been a little disheartening. As obviously, as I joke with my counterparts and friends that farm in the great ice states out there where you reside, and I said, hey, why don't you guys get dry or something for a couple weeks and help us regain some market access here, I said, it's great that you guys have a good crop. My one friend, Northwest Iowa, there we talked, he's got the greatest start he feels in the last 10 years to his crop, which is fantastic, obviously. But it's not fantastic for us here in the Eastern Corn Belt that are struggling. So, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Obviously we'll watch projections and, yield trends. They come out every year, it seems, earlier and earlier with yield projections here and, after that July report or whatever. So I don't know. I think obviously Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa and Nebraska and those guys that I talked to out there that obviously have good crops and good starts. And again, I know they deserve it. They've had some pretty rough weather and dry years out there. So I just hope they don't flood our market with corn over this way, because I know there's gonna be a lot of bushels moving this year, especially if the Eastern Corn Belt and Eastern Seaboard struggles like we have been with either moisture or late planting or prevent plant acres or whatever it might be. So
I'm not trying to make a headline here. However, is this one of the most challenging years you've had as a farmer?
I'm not old by any means. I turned 30 here in a month. So, I've been farming, let's call it 15 years. I've had skin in the game for 15 years here. This is my most challenging personal spring we've ever had. And I know I talked with my dad and I talked about it a little bit. This is probably one of the most challenging he can recently remember. And I'm sure there's been other years that were challenging obviously as well. But, we don't want to ever wish rain away. We don't pray rain away. But it is obviously kind of interesting. We kind of joked about last year. Obviously we were in a drought situation, but at least in a drought, you can go do whatever you want. You drive, you spend more time driving around looking for dry ground and farms, and luckily the technology you have today with different apps and stuff to track rainfall and stuff's kind of nice. But I'm just kind of nervous about if they're talking some good rain chances yet here this week for us, and if I get my spraying done, I can switch over the weekend to go do this corn. I don't like driving blind into a field of corn, not knowing where a wet hole might be. That I don't want to. I have my friend of mine with a bulldozer on standby with a big log chain if I have to, but hopefully it doesn't get to that point. So
Now, if he comes, you're never going to hear the end of it.
oh no, it'll be plastered all over Facebook and social media. Pictures of I'll be like some of those guys you see on Facebook, and then they put the memes and the voiceovers in there of a sprayer sideways or upside down or whatever, So I know it's been a while. We had I think it was summer of 2017 or 2015. We had a wet July for wheat harvest, and wheat harvest was delayed. Quality was bad. We actually got the combine stuck in a wheat field that summer, but that was it's not that wet in the wheat fields. Luckily, over the weekend, that hot weather really helped dry things up. But at least the wheat's off. But now we got 120 acres of straw land, and we got to figure out how to get tedded out and bale. But we actually got a passing shower this morning. We were going to go rake straw today, but we got a passing 10-minute shower this morning as I was getting my daughter ready to go to the sitter's house. Like, oh, well, there goes that plan for the day. So,
well, I was going to ask you about the hay situation. Yeah, the straw. And I mean, if anybody's trying to put alfalfa down, I can't imagine that's been a very successful endeavor.
No. And even like the dairy friends that I mentioned that were late planting there, they had to take advantage of the decent weather we had in May, and they were making rye or alfalfa or chopping that, and for feed stores, right? So, and they always plant their corn a little later just for chopping purposes. But middle June, late June, July is a little late for their standpoints in planting corn. But actually, I had a Snapchat from a friend of mine this morning that farms near Central Ohio. They do a lot of custom chopping and planting. He was side dressing some corn that was like B4 that they planted for a dairy here probably 10 days ago. So it's very much so that way all over the state of Ohio and even into Pennsylvania. A lot of issues. But overall, I guess we'll see how the crop comes harvest handles excess water versus not enough water. I know last year with water early, the corn was very pleasantly surprising. Beans obviously suffered late dry. But we'll see once the weather pattern continues to look wet or wet enough to keep crop obviously going and stuff. And as long as we contain heat, I think the crop will keep moving along just fine. It's just going to be kind of ugly to look at in spots for the rest of the summer. So,
yeah, the end of July, there's still that talk of we're going to turn that heat way up, and too much of a good thing that could help you right now would not make it fun for you in early August.
And that's why I made the comment earlier. I don't want to wish rain away because the root system in this corn is just non-existent. And that's what worries me as this corn gets bigger. And obviously we don't have necessarily the Direcco and all those windstorm scares as much as you guys do out west. But we still do get a lot of severe storms, as I just sprayed around 2 down trees that fell here on this farm. So that is worrisome as we get in. I know we've had the past where you get some gooseneck corn and laying down from a shallow root system and stuff. So, I guess at this point it wouldn't surprise me if something happens. I guess you get into a year where it just seems like it's just always a continual challenge, and it's just one you can look back on. And hopefully I can joke with my daughter someday that is to be born here in a couple of weeks that, boy, I'll never forget that year you were born, so.
It was the one dry day, and you had to arrive.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So
that's the way it goes. All right. Well, Ben, congratulations on the pending birth of your daughter, and keep the smiles up. That's really all you can do.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I got a great support system. My wife at home with as pregnant as she is and still working and running around with a 2.5-year-old toddler that is bouncing off the walls in all shapes and forms, all hours of the day. She still holds things down as we're, still running late nights and all over the place. So that is the biggest blessing out of this year for sure. That she's a great support system, and everybody's keeping a pretty good attitude. Like I said, we always joke. It's just, at what point you just laugh because it's just, you just gotta. If you don't smile, you just be mad. So you might as well just smile and laugh. So.
Send your dentist the bill for the whitening of the teeth because you're going to be showing them off.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Ben, thank you so much. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Paul. Good talking with you as always.
In talking to Ben, he has one story, Jamie. I'm pretty sure yours is the other. Is that about right? Is it dry there?
It is so dry. And if I had to guess, if Ben and I wanted to split my drought and his issues with too much moisture, there would be a farmer somewhere in between that wouldn't have a story to complain about.
Well, in Iowa, we're about halfway between the two of you, so yeah, there's plenty of them that are fine right here in this
Yeah.
little section, which means it's not a big widespread area. So things were looking up in the spring with moisture, but you had that feeling, didn't you, that it wasn't going to last?
I knew we were in a difficult place because we did not have a ton of extra moisture banked in the soil profile, which meant that we really needed that typical or typical to above average type rainfall. And we've had the absolute opposite story. So in April, May, and June, which are May and June being the most critical for me, but April, May, and June this year, we had 1.5 inches of rain in those 3 months. And for me, I need an average rainfall is 5.5 inches. So I know for some people listening or watching, 5.5 inches during April, May, and June is not huge, but that in my world would make a crop. So it's been really frustrating. Like we've talked about before, like we talked about last time, it's the nature of farming. The weather is what it is, and you work with it. But it's been rough to watch because all the crops did look pretty good. In May there was so much potential there. So it's been hard to watch, but.
And as I think we said before, optimism is a farmer's greatest attribute, and you had it, but you had, I'll put guarded in front of it. So planting, everything went in fine. Any delays?
Yeah. Yes, no delays. It was good planting. Everything was, more or less smooth. Probably the thing in the back of the mind where you knew it might not be great was we had some fields that we needed to reseed. They had been planted into winter wheat. They emerged. One field in particular, maybe about an inch and a half tall, and it died. It died before the snow came last fall. So when we, this spring, looking at that, obviously we needed to reseed it. And in April, we were kicking up a dust cloud with a drill in a no-till field. So, we went right back in without disturbing that soil, and still had that issue. So that was rough.
Has to be frustrating, right? Rough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the picture I saw from your husband in maybe June or maybe late May, did you still have hope then?
Yes. And that goes back to the farmer optimism, right? There was still time. If we would have had good rains in late May and even early June, those would have been money-making rains. We still had time at that point to make up some lost ground. So absolutely right. It would have made a difference at that point.
If it rains 2 inches over the next 3 days, what does that mean for you?
If it rains 2 inches over the next 3 days, it means that I might have some moisture to plant into for next year's winter crops. And we'll start seeding those late August if there's moisture there.
That's not going to save anything?
Not at this point. But it can't hurt, right? I shouldn't say. I was going to say if you're a farmer, you always will take the rain, but that's actually not the story for everyone.
That's what Ben said. That's exactly what Ben said. He says, I can't say I won't take the rain because he knows the opposite.
Yep.
So does that mean, so winter wheat, what did make it has been harvested or is about to be harvested?
So in our world, where we're at right now, we're about 7 to 10 days out from harvesting. So I think it'll be about July 20th when we're really kind of moving in earnest. Right now, the combine's ready to go. The grain bins are all cleaned out. The air tubes are set up. We're just kind of in that waiting pattern. Actually, my husband's in the sprayer today. He's making sure he's on the fallow.
I think he was last time we talked too.
He's always doing something. So he's on the fallow. I think I told you how we have to fallow our ground every 2 out of 5 years. It needs to take that break to recharge moisture. So it's important while it's not planted that we're managing the weeds. So that's what he's doing today before he's too busy with harvest, is he's making sure that anything that is fallow right now is really nice and clean. helps it be ready also to plant later this fall.
What are you thinking for yield on that wheat?
Oh, your guess is as good as mine. We could probably make a game out of it. So you asked about the crops and how things are looking, what made it, if you will. And we have been really fortunate, although the moisture situation hasn't been good. What has been good is the temperature. We were very fortunate to make it through May and make it through June without too many hot days. So if we can get through, till the end of June without being above 85, 86 degrees, that's ideal growing conditions for us. And we more or less did that. So that was kind of a gift from Mother Nature to offset the drought stress. At least we didn't have stress from having that heat come on too fast. So the things that look best are collectively, if it's a crop that was planted into fallow, there's more water for it there. So all the crops, of varying types, they look best on our farm right now if they had a fallow period last year. And higher elevation things look better. And that goes back to, it's just a little bit cooler up there for us. So we've got a mix. I'll tell you, when we report this winter, I bet I can tell you I had fields that maybe only did 20 bushels to the acre, and I bet I saw other places that did the 60 or the 70 that I would much rather see.
Well, I guess I should ask, I should have said, what's the percentage of average here? I mean, so like 20 would be basically a 30% field for you?
Yeah, or the field I'm thinking of in particular, it's prone to freezing. It's down low.
Okay.
So that one, if it went 40, I would be happy. So going 20 would be about half.
Okay. Still
Yeah.
not great.
No.
But you're real about it.
Yep.
So, okay, wheat's one thing. What else do you have planted and that you're watching? And is there anything yet to be harvested this summer?
Yeah, so we've got canola. We have winter and spring canola. That will be the first crop that we'll start with cutting. And then we have the winter wheat and the spring wheat. We have chickpeas, and then we also have the camelina little test plot. It seems to be coming along fine. It's very clean. We kept it nice and clean. I was worried about weed trouble, but it looks good. As far as we know, we won't know till we put a combine through it, obviously, exactly what we have. But it's been a fun experiment, if you will, so far. So what we'll do harvest-wise is we just start wherever it's most ripe, and it's going to take us 5 weeks. We have one machine, a small crew of our family, and we'll just slowly work through what is most ripe and most critical to get through that's in front of us. It will take, another 2 to 3 weeks to have everything ripen anyway, so there's that little bit of natural things aren't all ripe at the same time because of our elevation, and then you factor in if it's a spring crop or winter crop, etc. So,
which it does put stress on you, of course, but it does spread out some of that schedule, right? Is what you're saying?
It does, and it makes it doable for us to do with the one machine and the skeleton crew.
Right.
Last summer, right before harvest, I kind of just had a moment with myself, and I said to my husband, this is a marathon where we sprint the whole time. So it's, you start out on that day one and it's fun and you're excited, but that there are 5 weeks in front of you and every minute counts. So
if you sprint the marathon, does that mean you finish it in like 2 hours instead of the, is that how that works, or an hour like the Olympians?
That would be great. I think what it means is harvest takes 5 weeks instead of 8. I don't know.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Chad Bell is a guy that I talked to in this same format a couple of years ago, and his wheat, he was ready to combine it today, really, as we record this. He had like a 2.5-inch rain come last week, right at the end. And he's just like, I have no idea what's going to be out there when this rain is done. And so that's the stress that all farmers go through, is like, you can get all the way, see the finish line, and the finish line evaporates.
It is. And it's just like all the things in agriculture. And I think, like we've talked about, Mother Nature is in charge. And so in agriculture, we have to do everything that we can within our power to keep moving along and to get the work done because Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. And so that smart use of time and that aggressive, I'm called a little bit of calm aggression that we have during harvest. It's important because you really do get frustrated when that storm rolls through. If you lose crop, if you lose quality, there's a lot to be gained by getting after the hustle of harvest.
You and Ben are using the same talking points of using Mother Nature and how that's in control. Okay, well, tell me, so late July, August, what are your weather? You mentioned heat. You don't like to have heat before it. So I'm guessing it gets hot now.
Oh, yeah.
What is our storms potential? Does that happen in June or July and August?
Yeah, it does. So weather-wise, right now, our high this whole week is about 97 degrees, plenty warm. And we will have we actually like it when the time is right. We'll get a monsoonal flow that comes up kind of out of the Gulf. It feeds a lot of that water from south of us up into our region. And we can get, inches, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches throughout the course of the end of summer on a good year. And that's what helps us when it's time to plant again, kind of like I mentioned when you said, what would you think of 2 inches? Well, I'm looking next year and that would be great. So we do rely on that monsoonal flow to get us some late summer rain, but it comes in the form of thunderstorms. So I'm getting hail, a lot of wind with like thunderstorm outflows, and that will shatter canola pods. So then you'll have, the seeds on the ground and be lost. So all of those typical weather-related factors, that rain comes at a price this time of year.
Have you been off the farm at all, policy meetings or anything like that?
Oh, we've been, yes.
Where have I not been is what you're about to say.
You're making me realize that I'm a little more tired than I should be going into harvest because I have been off the farm. Going back to May, my husband and I had a very unique opportunity to travel with U.S. Wheat. We went on a board team to North Africa and Portugal, and that was just amazing. It was very eye-opening, very exciting. We were proud to represent the American farmer on that trip. So an example is that Egypt specifically is one of the world's largest wheat importers, a net wheat importer. There's a lot of opportunity in Africa right now, and a lot of even, and this probably speaks to my ignorance, while there's that need in those emerging markets, there's actually a lot of very developed consumers that are looking for quality wheat, quality milled wheat, and they're making some high-end products as well in the North African area. So very neat opportunity to talk to our customers there and to keep that relationship strong and vibrant. Obviously, the United States isn't always the first place that a North African country or Portugal is going to go for the wheat product, but that's part of what U.S. Wheat does, is continues the customer support and maintains the relationships so that when the opportunities align, we're in place to provide that wheat to those regions. So that was incredible. Very grateful. Our college son came home within hours of us taking off on airplanes. So we turned the farm over to him. He shipped out a lot of canola while we were gone, held down the fort. It was terrific. But that took up a lot of our month of May. It was about 2 weeks at the beginning of May that we did that. And then I've had so many meetings and places I've been. I spoke at the Idaho Water Users meeting in June. We've been in Minneapolis with Wheat Foods Council. We've done a handful of things with our own state of Idaho organization. So we've had a busy summer. And then to top it off, because we can't hold still long enough, we took a minute over the 4th of July and made sure to leave with our kids this time and went mountain biking as a family in British Columbia. And that definitely is more play than work. So we appreciate those times with our kids.
I guess I didn't ask where you had gone mountain biking, but British Columbia, yeah, the terrain was beautiful
Yes.
on the video you showed me. So
Yes.
that's fun. And again, it is important to have it's like those who might sit at a desk or sit somewhere to just have a break from what the day to day is. It does make you appreciate the main job that you have,
Mhm.
but it just kind of resets the mind. At least that's how I view it, and I think it sounds like you might view it that way too.
Yep. That's exactly it. And we learned to prioritize when our family was young the importance of stepping away from the farm. So, I'm talking to you right now from my office, which is placed right in the middle of the house, not far from the kitchen. And the main shop is a few hundred feet down the driveway. Our kids have been raised in the middle of a business. And so even when we're home, we are at work and we try and be mindful of that. But at the end of the day, to be able to take us as a family, all four of us off the farm, and like you mentioned, you can rejuvenate, and we especially love, being in the beautiful environment of where we choose to mountain bike, and then that physical exertion. We're kind of wild on mountain bikes, and partly
Kinda.
because we like the adventure, but when my husband and I talk about it, it really is the type of mountain biking we do. You're not thinking about anything but staying alive, kind of, how your body is balanced, where you're directing your bike, how you're leaning and placing things. Your mind can't do anything but ride that bike. And it is terrific because I'll tell you, after about 2 or 3 days of doing that, I don't care about anything. Um, it's I'm not waking up in the night remembering things I need to put down on a piece of paper so I don't forget to deal with them. Um, I'm happy. And then just like when our kids were small, they absolutely love having the undivided attention of their mom and dad outside of the home.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah,
have a lot of fun, and we prioritize big trips a couple times a
balance is
year.
important, family is important, and to be able to put
Hmm.
those perspectives. And yeah, it is stressful. They know it. They know things are going on. They know when it's only an inch of rain over a 6 month or a 2 month
Hmm.
period. So yeah, to have that away, that's good. So when we talk this winter, there'll be I'll keep an eye on the forecast, but looking at the drought monitor for your part of Idaho, the colors keep getting the wrong way for you. So let's hope that switches soon.
Yes, yeah, I would love that too. The pattern is such that we're in a dry spell for a little while, and I think just like we've always talked about, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. All right,
Whatever Mother
Jamie.
Nature brings, it'll be all right.
All right, Jamie. Good to see you. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
We'll check back in with the two of them come this winter. Find out how things all turned out. We don't know how things are going to turn out, but we do know we'll be back next week with another installment of the MTOM podcast. We'll see you then. Thank you for making us a part of your internet experience.